I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting. And before we proceed, I want to acknowledge that the land upon which we are situated here, and for those who are also attending the meeting remotely, we are doing so on the land that is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe people, many of whom continue to occupy our community and add to its richness. Madam Clerk, the roll call, please.
All members of council are present, Your Worship.
In terms of addenda, there is an addendum to this evening's meeting, and that it's quite lengthy. An addition of a presentation at 8F, Orma Bleaks, on behalf of Advancing Crystal Beach. That has meant that the special council meeting that had originally been anticipated for prior to this regular council meeting has now been canceled, and we will be holding a closed session to deal with a land matter as item number 14 on our agenda. There are some deletions. The first is a presentation by Carolyn Ryle with respect to Vision Zero, and accordingly the correspondence relative to that presentation at item 9.2.2 has also been deleted, and because of the addition of the closed session near the end of our meeting, just immediately prior to the consideration of bylaws, consideration of bylaws is now number 15 on our agenda. And in terms of announcements, just a couple of brief ones. The fire department has been conducting a Seniors Assistance Forgery program, or SAFE program, whereby they make arrangements with seniors in our community to inspect their homes to make sure that their smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms are functioning. They provide advice and direction to property owners who are having faulty or no or inexact smoke alarms or carbon dioxide alarms, carbon monoxide, alarms. So if you're a senior and you're contacted by the fire department, please take advantage of this opportunity. Second thing I wanted to briefly touch on is the 2020 service awards have obviously been impacted by COVID in our community, but we have some long service employees who I would like to recognize. They are going to be formally recognized by the municipality, and I want to start with Randy Martins, who was the manager of procurement. She retired on October the 8th, but she had 15 years of service to the town of Fort Erie and provided excellent service in procurement and risk management for the municipality. Another 15-year employee is Al Stoddard, who works in the recreation department. He's been a steadfast employee throughout his career. He's been solid, dependable, dedicated, and has done a lot of work with his colleagues in addressing our recreation needs in this community. The third person with 15 years experience is our clerk, Carol Schofield, who I could have swore was here longer than 15 years. Just seems like that. But I know that she's worked progressively from her start here at the town of Fort Erie through the ranks as a legislative clerk, law clerk, and eventually to the clerk for the municipality. And we all know what a sterling job she does, and I want to congratulate her along with the others as well. But the list continues. Derek Teal has been with facilities, operations, and maintenance for 15 years. Very effective employee, very well liked by all that he comes in contact with. He is now division supervisor and has the lead facilities team with the town of Fort Erie. Manfred Sass is also a 15-year employee. He works in parks and cemeteries as a cemetery employee for about the last 3 years of that time. He switched over from the roads department. Have I got that right, Tom? He's now with cemeteries, was with roads. Right. And he has to keep some of that really heavy equipment, though, out of the cemeteries. So we keep an eye on Manfred. Jing Yang has also been with the town for 15 years. She's an accounting analyst, and we all see her around the town very frequently, always smiling and very service-oriented, which is exactly what we like. Some other municipal employees who've been with the town for 20 years are Blair Morden, who is also a cemetery employee and knows our cemeteries like the back of his hand, and rightly so. He started as a casual employee with the town in the recreation department and now is with cemeteries. Then there's Reed Canavan, who's been a database administrator, who is a database administrator, started here as a young man, and is kind of the, how would I say this? He's kind of the guru of technology, IT. When he set up my computer in 2014, when I came back into office as the mayor, he gave me a passcode, and I said to him, "So what are all these letters and numbers? What do they mean?" He said, "I don't know. That's your that's your password." So whenever I would forget it at the beginning, I would call down and I'd say, "Reed, do you remember my password?" He said, yeah, it's blah, 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 blah. And I said, "How do you remember that?" He says, "I don't know." So it's still my password, and I now remember it, and Reed has been going for 20 years. Recently had some health issues, but he's back in full swing, and that's really good to know. And then finally, 25 years service, John Fairgrieve. This says that he's been with the town as long as the town hall has been here, so he would have been here as well when the Leisureplex was opened. I like to think that if it hadn't been for John, we probably never would have had a new town hall or a new Leisureplex, but maybe I'm giving him far too much credit. But congratulations to each and every one of them. They help add to the vibrant workplace that we have here, and I want to thank the bosses for each of them, and none more so than our CAO, who is responsible not only for these fine employees, but their bosses. And Tom, we know that that's a very easy job. Anyways, okay, let's move on to business. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. With respect to number 14, consideration of bylaws report 123-2021, as my business has worked with one of the partners of West Wind Developments.
Okay, so could you run that by me again?
Sure. It's number 14, consideration of bylaws report number 123-2021.
Oh, the bylaw.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll take that out of the package when we get there. The bylaws are now item 15 because of all the shuffling around. Is there anything else, Councillor Butler?
No, thanks.
Any other councillors? Nope. Okay, we're good. So upcoming meetings, we have the 2022 budget schedule. First meeting starts on Wednesday, November the 17th, 2021. We'll be dealing with the capital budget and forecast. Second budget meeting will be December the 8th, 2021. Again, a Wednesday. That will be the water and wastewater, operating budget and fees analysis. Wednesday, February 2nd, will be the third meeting. That's 2022. That will be the library assessment analysis and general levy operating budget. And then there'll be a fourth meeting, if necessary, on February the 9th, 2022. These will all be accessible by the public via video teleconference, unless we get to the point where town hall is opened, which I guess is a possibility, and we're looking forward to that. The budget bylaws will be presented Monday, December the 13th, 2021, will be the preliminary capital budget. The water and wastewater budget and rates will be presented in bylaw form on January 17th, 2022. And the general levy budget and general capital budget, if all things go according to schedule, will be presented on February the 28th, 2022 in a bylaw format. These meetings all start at 6 o'clock. And yeah, so just anxious to get at it. We have a proposed zoning bylaw amendment meeting with respect to 57 Idlewild Street, and that is scheduled for November the 15th, 2021 at 6 p.m. The information report, which will be on our agenda, will be available to the public at 5 p.m. on November the 10th, 2021. We have another proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment public meeting with respect to 321 Garrison Road, and that again starts at 6 p.m. November the 15th, and the information report also will be available on November the 10th, 2021 at 5 p.m. That takes us then to the regional councillor's report. Sorry, Councillor Encina, I almost blew right past you, and I didn't intend to.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. Before I get started through Mr. Mayor, I take it then Ms. Ryle will not be doing either presentation tonight?
Well, I have her down for not doing the one. I still have her down for doing the second presentation, which relates to the transportation capital budget outlook.
Okay, all right, thank you. Last week at Regional Council, the budget for the 2020 Summer Games was once again a topic of discussion due to increased construction costs and other associated costs. An additional request was made for the region to increase the funding for the games by over $4 million. In 2017, Regional Council had made an agreement with the Canada Summer Games Committee that the region would cover any cost overruns, putting the region really at risk for coming up with additional funding. Earlier this year, Regional Council agreed to the transition of responsibilities of construction for the Canada Summer Games from that committee to the region so that costs could be somewhat kept under control. The approved increase that was requested, the $4 million, brings the Niagara Region's contribution to the Summer Games thus far to $24.2 million. The revised construction contract price now sits at $107.2 million. Now, some of that is coming, I believe $32 million is coming from the federal government, $32 million comes from the provincial government. The regional incentive program was brought forward again to Regional Council. It has been a topic of debate for several weeks. The decision was finally made, and the incentive programs at the region will primarily stay status quo. But it's hoped that more funding will be funneled into the region's 4 pillars identified, which were employment, public realm, brownfields, and affordable housing. I am happy to announce that the legal papers have been signed for the construction of the new Gilmore Lodge, one of the last steps prior to construction. It is believed that construction will begin within the next few weeks, and I will ensure I call each one of you when this is going to happen. You may have to use umbrellas, but we'll all be out. As I see the budget season for the town has started, so too has the season started at the region with the capital budget that was discussed last week. There are several more workshops and meetings scheduled in the next coming few weeks, and it's going to be a very interesting exercise, judging from the capital budget meetings that were had and the capital budget that was put forward. I'm going to wrap things up because I understand Ms. Ryle is going to be talking to you. Just one note that I had with regards, I know might not be talking about it, but is with Vision Zero, the Vision Zero transportation program. This is one of the programs that I have been a big proponent on, and I really do believe it is something that will make our streets and sidewalks and walkways more safer for the residents here in Fort Erie. And through you, Mayor Redekop, I will wrap that up and see if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Encina. Appreciate those comments. I think your numbers might be a little off with respect to the federal and provincial contributions to the Canada Summer Games. I think they're just under 28 million each, and with $4 million in operating commitment from the region, I think the region's total contribution now would be 28. But as you've pointed out, could go higher if there are further surplus costs. I do want to point out that I may have been the only councillor at the region that voted against that in 2017. However, it is what it is, and let's hope that the surpluses don't mount up. Do any members of council have any questions of Councillor Encina? Councillor Noyes?
Thank you, Mayor Redekop, through you to Councillor Encina. Tom, I'm wondering if you have any information on the lagoon. There was a fair amount of work that was budgeted for the lagoon this past year for the removal of the sludge. And I just wondered if that did proceed as planned. I would understand if it didn't because of COVID. And also, what is the long-term plan for the lagoon considering all the development that's happened in Black Creek and Stevensville?
Councillor Encina?
Through you, Mayor Redekop, it is my understanding that the work did proceed. I thought it was in the neighborhood of $4 million that they were going to do upgrades to the lagoon. I will confirm that again. And as far, I have asked repeatedly about the South Niagara new wastewater treatment plant. They did say to me, however, that it would be too costly to pump anything north. I still have a burr under my sort of skin for that one. And I will, when we have our public works again, I'm hoping to bring that back to the table again and ask. But from what I've been told, they're saying that the lagoon is going to be able to hold whatever infrastructure increases for the next 5 to 10 years. I'm going to hold them to that, and I will keep questioning, especially being so close to Lions Creek Road or in Chippewa. It doesn't make sense that we can't do that. But I will get some answers for you about that too.
Yeah, it is. I think it was 3.6 million, Councillor Encina, but you're right. It was in the budget, and my understanding is they're going to be proceeding this year. Councillor Noyes, anything further?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Any other councillors? Thank you very much, Councillor Encina. We appreciate the input.
Thank you.
So that then takes us to presentations and delegations, and the first delegation on our agenda would be Carolyn Ryle and Beth Brenz, providing us with some information regarding the 1 to 5 year transportation capital budget outlook from the region.
Good evening, Mayor Redekop. I just want to confirm you can hear us and see us okay in the boardroom.
We can hear you, and good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. So thank you, Mayor Redekop, Regional Councillor Encina, and City Council. Thank you so much for having transportation here this evening. The reason we're here is we wanted to provide our draft 1 to 5 year outlook with regards to the works that we bring forward as part of our capital plan in consultation with your city staff as we work to communicate on any partnerships and cost sharing arrangements related to our network on the regional roads. So I just wanted to introduce, I have Frank Tassoni here. He's the Associate Director from Transportation Engineering. And I have Pam Miltonberg. She's the Capital Specialist who works on behalf of transportation in amalgamating the annual outlooks for the corporation and then looking across our 10-year draft outlook as we're putting our plan together. Can you see the presentation on the screen, Mayor Redekop?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. If we can move to the next slide. So just to provide some clarity maybe on the presentations before you, when the region did reach out on behalf of transportation, our intent was to provide the capital outlook, just to provide context again as to how we're planning with regards to our draft, again, our draft outlook that we bring forward to our council. Similar to what happens at the municipality, everything goes before a council related to the following annual budget cycle and based on that capital approval. So for example, for 2022, what is before council now is under review, and pending approvals for 2022, we'll start to work on those programs. So the outlook that we're showing here this evening, again, is it's a draft, and it has to go through the yearly capital outlook and approvals, very similar to what the municipality does, just to keep context on what we're presenting here this evening. The second presentation that we were going to do tonight, and I will be coming back before council, if not December, January, is to talk about the Vision Zero Road Safety Program in collaboration with the municipalities and what that program will entail and the roles and responsibilities between all the various partners. That's the 12 local area municipalities and the region. And I'll be coming back with a separate presentation on that, as well as an approval ask for the intermunicipal agreement changes, which I'll talk a little bit further along in the program that we're presenting here tonight, just in relation to the comment made by Regional Councillor Encina. Thanks, Pam. So if I can talk a little bit about the capital budget process here at the region, when we're putting forward any capital budget for our approval, and for example, for 2022, no different than our other capital years, we break it down into 4 main areas. We talk about network expansion, intersection improvements, roads rehabilitation program, and our structure rehabilitation program. The next slide here just provides context into the definition of what each of these mean. So when we're referring to anything related to a network expansion capital works program, this includes the construction of a new road. It also deals with the widening of an existing road. It's driven through growth and development, and it is identified in our 10-year, the region's transportation master plan. So we have an approved transportation master plan right now that was approved in 2017. Anything to do with growth and development has been identified, and those programs are in our 1 to 10-year capital outlook as we bring them forward, again, for the annual approvals through the council. When we are referring to something such as an intersection improvement program, this has to do with the modification of an intersection that currently exists. We could be looking to add curb and gutter and turn lanes. So there's a number of intersections, for example, that as development has grown in the area, we don't have designated turn lanes. So as an example, this program would target those intersections. It has to do with AODA upgrades that we would be doing at older intersections, pavement markings, signage, as well as the installation of a new traffic signal. If we're looking at something, for example, that would be dealing with a 4-way stop as an example, and it is warranted for the region to do something, we also take a look at roundabouts. That's a common treatment that we're looking throughout the region to incorporate. And if a roundabout is required, we will install a roundabout. Or if a brand new signal needs to be installed, we'll look to install a brand new signal. So that's what's covered under the intersection program when we bring that forward again as part of our capital outlook. When we deal with the roads rehabilitation program, this involves the reconstruction of a current road that has a deteriorating pavement. It is to increase the longevity of that pavement. So at Public Works here at the region, we've had some dialogue around our pavement condition index, and there being a sweet spot or a range at which we target to roll out our hot mix program. For those who are aware of the hot mix, this is an example of those roads that are falling within a certain range when they're inspected. If we want to increase the longevity of them, we'll work to put them into our hot mix program, and we go out and we do a resurfacing program related to, again, increasing the longevity and the platform of those roads. When we're dealing with a structure rehabilitation program, this is dealing with either a bridge rehabilitation. So that's dealing with the correction of deficiencies that may be occurring on the bridge. And if we're dealing with a full bridge replacement, the bridge is at the end of its service life. It's a much larger program, more costly program, and then we work to replace the entire bridge. So I'm now going to pass this portion of the presentation over to Frank. Frank oversees the Transportation Engineering Group, as I made mention earlier, and all these capital programs roll out through his staff. So I'm going to pass it over to him to provide an update. Thanks, Frank.
Okay. Thanks, Carolyn, and thanks, Council, for having us tonight. So the first project that we're going to discuss is the Regional Road 1 Dominion Road project from Helena to Lakeshore. This project is a tri-party project that is being completed and led by the region, with the town of Fort Erie and the Niagara Parks Commission being partners. This will look at upgrades to the road platform, including active transportation, landscaping, and overall geometry improvements, with the implementation of a roundabout at the intersection of Dominion and Lakeshore. And this project is currently out for tender right now. We'll be working towards construction next year. Next project that we have is Regional 21 Bowen Road from Ridgemount to QEW. This project and specific road section is coming into our forecast due to road condition in our pavement condition database. And it will be a road rehabilitation. And this is located in the 1 to 3 year forecast. Next project that we have is Stevensville Road from Eagle Street to Bowen Road. This section of road will look at urbanization of the road section, including stormwater upgrades in the area and active transportation facilities within that area. And this is also located in the 1 to 3 year forecast. Stevensville Road Bridge is in that previous project limits, and we have the bridge listed separately. However, this structure will be rehabilitated or replaced depending on how our studies pan out as part of that project, and it will include active transportation on both sides over top of the structure. The next structures that we have are two structures that are owned, one by CN and one by CP, and those are the rail structures that cross over top of Thompson Road. And we're working together with the rail authorities to determine work programs to rehabilitate or replace those structures. And this is an ongoing dialogue with the rail authorities, as they have primary jurisdiction over those structures. The next section that we have is Regional Road 21, Bowen Road from QEW to Thompson Road. Once again, this is coming up due to road condition in our PCI database, and this road section is in the 6 to 10 year forecast. We have the Dominion Road Bridge, which is a bridge replacement. And this section or this bridge will be replaced, including active transportation. And this is located currently in our 6 to 10 year forecast. And now I'll pass it back over to Carolyn to discuss some safety initiatives and some region visionary projects.
Thank you, Frank. So under the safety initiatives, there are a number of programs that are already underway. When we refer to the pavement line marking and crosswalk program, which is annual, we have our speed display trailer, which you can see there to the right. So based on any inquiry or complaint with regards to speeding that is happening out on Regional Road, we have 2 of these units that we pull out and in a safe location position them. We're able to track the speed at the time of day, and in working with the Niagara Regional Police, as speeding falls under their jurisdiction, we have a very close working relationship on their assistance and having them out in those areas doing selective enforcement for us. And then just sign installations again for driver awareness. So these 3 programs are annual programs. The region has been underway in implementing these for a long time. The new program that Councillor Encina referenced and Mayor Redekop is aware of is the Vision Zero Road Safety Program. So this is the program that we're looking to not only include obviously what I've just identified in the 3 bullets below, but this will be looking to bring automated speed enforcement, referred to as ASE, and red light cameras, which are electronic means at which we can be dealing with driver behavior and speeding on the roadways. This is the program the region is looking to launch in addition to the current community safety zones that we already have out in place at 13 locations. So there will be a subsequent presentation, like I already mentioned, where I'll be coming back in front of Council. I require unanimous support with regards to the Vision Zero intermunicipal agreement revision. Again, there'll be a lot of context of what that means and coming back before you looking for that approval, and then also providing an update as to what this program entails. The intent between December and January, the end of this year and the beginning of next, with coming back before each of the councils to get these approvals, is the intent is to roll this program out starting Q2 of 2022. There's been a lot of very heavy lifting between the region and the various departments, also in speaking with staff at each of the local area municipalities. So we're excited to bring this forward to close on the IMA, looking for the approvals as required and then to get the program launched. So there'll be more to come on the safety initiative in the end of the year and the beginning of next. Okay, Pam? And then lastly, just to close on some larger regional vision programs underway, just to keep everybody informed. The region is currently completing a complete streets assignment. This was identified in the region's transportation master plan. What it is doing is it is looking at all the different regional roads throughout each of the different 12 local area municipalities. It's assigning a certain typology descriptor to what each of the regional roads are. And then it'll be talking to certain things as road right-of-way width, what that platform will look like between an urban cross section and a rural. So it is more of a toolkit for when you're driving on specific regional roads that fall within these different typologies on what are some of the different items that you would be seeing consistently throughout the regional road network. What's key to this piece of work is that it is an internal but also a very large stakeholders working group underway right now with regards to this. We have representatives across all 12 local area municipalities participating with the identification of what these typologies are for each of the regional roads, to coming to an agreement with that. Also coming to an agreement as we continue this assignment as to what the toolkit items will be. Again, whether there'll be sidewalks or bike lanes from active transportation, separated cycle lanes. We have landscape features. So all these different pieces, again, to each of these different typologies are being discussed with the local area municipalities. We will be bringing this back before Public Works on an approval process, identifying those typologies, and then roles and responsibilities, again, for the building of them, the construction, and as well as the maintenance of these different aspects. So there'll be more to come that will be engaging your municipality with regards to this, but it's an excellent piece of work that has quite a bit of collaboration underway with the region and each of the local area municipalities.
Ms. Ryle, how much longer do you anticipate you're going to be? You're quite a bit over the 10 minutes.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm almost finished. Just the last two things and we're done. And then just the regional wayfinding, which you can see to the diagram to the right there. That is going to be the next piece of work that will tag on to the complete streets. And then just for everyone's information, the Niagara Hamilton Trade Corridor, this has been a long project in discussion here at the region. It's been identified again, the Transportation Master Plan, and we continue to work with the federal and provincial levels of government on funding for the initial phase, starting from the QEW and Fort Erie to Welland. And then I can leave it there. And we're happy to answer any questions with regards to the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do any members of council have any questions? Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Ms. Ryle. Thank you very much for the presentation. This is one of the things I actually look forward to hearing every year as it comes up. Just a quick question with regard to, you mentioned the work on the Thompson Road, I guess the underpass or the railway overpasses, as well as the rehab of Bowen Road. Has there been any consideration to intersection improvements to improve sightline or anything like that at the intersections of Thompson and Bowen and Thompson and Phipps on the other side? I'm just wondering, I believe back in 2019, I had asked a similar question. I'm just wondering if that's something that's on the region's radar at all.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor, yes, so we will be looking at intersections on those road stretches once they come up. So we'll be looking at full geometry improvements and any other improvements that are required at all the intersections along those road stretches.
No, thank you, Your Worship. I'm actually very happy to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, the problem is that the intersection of Phipps and Thompson is quite treacherous. When you're going northbound, you come underneath the railway overpasses. It's a pretty tricky intersection to maneuver if you're continuing north on Thompson Road. So I know that there was some proposed development and maybe some discussion about a roundabout there, but certainly that would be something that I hope you would take under consideration. And, you know, I don't think 6 to 10 years is a reasonable horizon, in my view. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents worth. Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. My question, I'm sorry, I don't remember everybody's name, to the region is, in regards to Stevensville Road and the bridge and bringing Stevensville Road up to urban standards, the forecast is 1 to 3 years. When will we have kind of like a better idea whether it's closer to 1 or closer to 3? And once the bridge is determined whether it's going to come, to be replaced in that period of time too, what's the time frame for anticipated length of time that it would take for the bridge to be removed and replaced?
Ms. Ryle, who do you want to respond?
Yeah, so through Mr. Mayor, we would be putting that through in our 2023 forecast to try and obtain design funds. And we anticipate that construction, I believe the second part of your question was construction duration. We don't expect that project will take longer than 1 construction season.
Councillor Noyes.
That would of course be pending budget approval, but we would be putting forth the first ask for design funds in the 2023 forecast.
Thank you for that. I'm very happy to hear, because the rumors that are flying is that it's going to take over a year once the bridge is removed and Stevensville Road will be closed for a year. So I'm glad to hear it'll only be 1 construction season. Thank you.
Any other members of council? Councillor Zanko.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the region, just wanted to thank you. I'm very happy to hear about the active transportation component and focuses that you've identified. Just a quick question with regard to the work that is scheduled for 2022 on Dominion between Helena and Lakeshore. Has that active transportation component already been identified since the works will be happening sooner? I'm just wondering if it's going to be a larger shoulder like we've seen on the upper portion of Dominion, or if you had any comment on that.
Folks?
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, yes, that is including active transportation, so that the section of road will have on-road cycling facilities, and they will be fully marked facilities, so dedicated cycling facilities as well as pedestrian facilities, I believe, on both sides. So that has been taken into consideration and will be constructed with that road section.
Excellent, thank you. Nothing further.
Anyone else? Just a couple of questions, if I might. So in terms of the work on Stevensville Road, it sounded like the bridge would be dealt with, and then the rest of the road going through downtown Stevensville will be dealt with thereafter. Is that the way it's going to be, a 2-phase approach?
Through Mr. Mayor, I anticipate that the project will be completed all together, road works and bridge works, all combined into one project.
That makes sense, and I appreciate that. The second question has to do with the speed. We get a lot of complaints. I'm sure in every municipality in Niagara, you're getting the same concerns and complaints about speeding. Some of them are on municipal roads. Some of them are on regional roads. Have you contemplated deploying any of the speed display signs in Fort Erie? And do we have to wait for the Vision Zero to be approved before the region contemplates putting up cameras? Because if you're familiar with the municipal center here, you'll know that the high school is right across the street and that there's a signalized intersection on Garrison Road between the high school and the town hall. I can't tell you how many times when I come to town hall or when I leave this area, I see people running the red light on Garrison Road. It's unbelievable. In fact, it happened as I was coming here this evening. And I've said before, not only have I seen a vehicle run that red light, I saw a vehicle and a transport truck run the red light at the same time. So any thought about cameras? I know that there's some discussion. I know that there's some provincial regulations that deal with this, but my view is if you want people to stop running red lights and start behaving speed limits, put up cameras. Any comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So with regards to having selective enforcement and the speed display trailer out there now, I'm happy to pull that out there. I am aware of the intersection you have raised because you have brought that to my attention, and I believe the regional councillor has also raised it to my attention. So with regards to us doing anything immediate with the NRP and well as the speed trailer, we're happy to assist with getting that moved forward. Prior to any red light cameras going out anywhere in the region, I do need the intermunicipal agreement approval to be in place before I'm able to order any of the equipment and then have them deployed and installed throughout the region. So the next step is having the IMA approved through all the 12 different local area municipalities, our regional councillor, and then the intent will be to roll out that program. I will be coming back with the number of pieces of equipment. It's fair to say that we're only going to be rolling out so many pieces of equipment to start for the automated speed enforcement as well as the red light cameras. And the intent is we've done a huge jurisdictional scan that we'll be coming back with the first top 10 to 12 for red light camera, as well as the community safety zone strategy for ASC. So that will be coming forward for review.
Thank you very much, and I suppose the sooner that happens, the better. And my nomination for number 1 red light camera intersection would be Garrison Road at Town Hall. So please, because you know the kids cross that street, sometimes they're paying attention and sometimes they're not paying attention, and I don't want something tragic to occur. Thank you very much for your presentation. We very much appreciate the update, and we look forward to hearing you on the Vision Zero program and the agreement that needs to be adopted by everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, so then that takes us to the next delegation, which is Linda Goodridge and Deb Shirk of the Burt Miller Nature Club, making a presentation regarding the BirdFriendly City Initiative.
Okay, I'd like to try sharing my screen now.
So will we be seeing your camera, or is this going to be your voice, Linda?
Okay, this is my voice. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. And
can
welcome.
You see, and can you see my presentation?
We can see that beautiful kingbird on your screen.
Okay, great. Good evening, members of council, and thank you, Mayor Redekop, for inviting us to speak about this exciting opportunity. Deb Shirk and I will give you a brief overview of this initiative. And although we're affiliated with the Burt Miller Nature Club, this is actually a community endeavor. Okay, so what is a bird-friendly city? Well, it's actually a process that leads to certification under guidelines that have been developed by Nature Canada. It recognizes the efforts made by cities to save birds and to acknowledge the important role that they play in maintaining our ecosystems. And of course, by protecting birds, we're also protecting the health and well-being of our community. It's also important for climate change mitigation, which we know has become a top priority for most Canadians. Currently, Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto have achieved this status, and there's 35 other Canadian towns and cities working towards this goal as well. In our own region, Niagara Falls is becoming a bird-friendly city. So what are the benefits to certification? In addition to attaining international recognition and a sense of community pride, we can use this to our economic advantage. Bird watching is the fastest growing hobby in the world, and ecotourism can be an economic driver. Birders love to travel to see birds, and they spend their money in local restaurants, hotels, and stores. A number of years ago, we had a very rare bird in the Niagara River off the shores of Fort Erie called a brown booby, and there's a picture of it down there. During the time the bird was staying around, which was probably close to 2 weeks, there were hundreds of birders that came to see this bird from both sides of the border. It was quite an event for our town. Good evening, everyone. My name is Deb Shirk. A major study that was done by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology shows a cumulative loss of nearly 3 billion, that's billion with a B, birds since 1970 across North America. This new study finds steep and long-term losses across virtually all groups of birds in Canada. About 90% of the missing birds came from 12 distinct but widespread bird families, including warblers, sparrows, blackbirds, and finches. However, the good news is not all species declined. For instance, waterfowl, this group has seen an increase of 34 million since 1970, largely due to wetland conservation efforts. And the other group is raptors, such as bald eagles. This group has gained approximately 15 million individuals since DDT was banned in 1972. So we can see that taking steps like wildlife management, habitat restoration, and political action can have a significant impact in saving species in steep decline. Some quick facts for you. As I mentioned earlier, nearly 3 billion birds have disappeared since 1970. Birding is a very popular hobby, and the number of people enjoying this hobby has increased 30% in Niagara since COVID. According to Quartz.com, businesses that sell bird feed and backyard bird feeders have reported sales increases of approximately 45% since COVID. People are moving to the Niagara area to enjoy our natural areas and our parks and our woods and our trails, and bird watching is part of this desire to be in nature. The Niagara River corridor is an important birding area. For the past 3 years, the 3 local nature clubs on the Canadian side of the border and the Buffalo Ornithological Society have hosted a binational event called Birds on the Niagara. This event has attracted hundreds of people and many well-known speakers in the area of conservation and bird habitat. The Niagara River is an important area for bird migration and is used by many species as a refueling stop on their way south. There is no doubt that humans have a huge impact on birds and their habitat. So what can we do to mitigate this happening? There are 3 main areas of focus on becoming a bird-friendly city. The first is to reduce the threats to birds through regulatory and educational measures. The second is to protect the habitat where birds live, by factoring in the well-being of birds and, of course, humans as well, in planning any urban development. The planning of any new urban development must prioritize habitat protection and restoration. And the third thing we have to do is to create impactful community outreach and education, such as participating in and celebrating World Migratory Bird Day. I'm going to talk a little bit about the 3 main threats to birds in nature. The first, and by far the largest threat to birds, are roaming cats. Roaming cats are thought to account for up to 75% of all bird deaths in Canada. That's between about 100 to 350 million birds per year that are killed in Canada. The second big threat is collisions. Approximately 25 million birds in Canada die annually from collisions with glass. I'd always assumed this was collisions with tall buildings such as apartment buildings and office towers, but in fact, over 90% of collisions are caused by residential and low-rise buildings. And the third biggest threat is loss of habitat. Human expansions and urbanization have greatly reduced the opportunity for successful breeding and survival of birds. So let's look at some of the things that the town can do to decrease the threats to birds. We've seen that roaming cats are one of the biggest threats to our bird population. We don't let our dogs run free throughout our neighborhoods, so why should we allow our cats to do this? I see that the town has already passed some voluntary regulations, so perhaps we can build on that. And Nature Canada has a great handout with lots of positive suggestions for cat owners that might be really useful. As for collisions, there are a variety of glass treatments that can be promoted to our residents and also incorporated into town-owned buildings. I understand that a new bill has been introduced in the Ontario legislature urging the province to adopt a policy regarding bird-friendly materials to be included in the construction of all new residential and commercial buildings. And of course, working to reduce pesticides has proven to be very successful in helping our bird population. In terms of habitat protection, a good tree management policy is important to both maintaining and restoring our natural habitat. I see the town has a bylaw related to destruction, injury, or harvesting of trees, but do we have an effective policy that deals with planting new trees and restoring those that we have? Liz Benion from Biodiversity and Climate Action Niagara Committee has helped to develop a policy for the municipality of Vineland that's very comprehensive and can be used as a template for other communities, so it might be worth looking at that. Chimney swifts are a threatened species that survives on insects, so they're important to our ecosystems as well. The Burt Miller Nature Club provides stewardship services locally for Birds Canada by coordinating an annual swift watch in Fort Erie during spring and summer when the birds migrate. During this time, volunteers monitor the activity and report numbers of birds. And we're currently creating a liaison with the Fort Erie Horticultural Society to help promote the planting of bird-friendly gardens by local citizens. This could also be included in the town's plantings on public property. As for community education, proclaiming World Migratory Bird Day in Fort Erie would give us a great opportunity to inform and involve local residents. We already have some community partners who can help with this by providing activities and displays. For local businesses, the bird-friendly designation could be a good marketing tool, and this might encourage them to embrace some of the suggested changes. And of course, we will soon have 2 new coffee shops in the greater Fort Erie area, so this might be a good time to approach them with suggestions. So how do we attain status? Well, there is a very detailed application form that's used. It lists the items that count towards certification, some of which we've already discussed, and assesses performance on key issues. There are actually 3 levels of certification, so this will be an extended process where we can achieve each level over time, starting with the entry status and then ending up with our high status. So it isn't something that has to be done over a very short period of time. We can work at it. We can start with what we have and build on that. So we have a bird team ready to help move this forward, but we can't do it without your help. Will you join us in becoming a bird-friendly city? Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies. Appreciate very much the information that you provided to us. Are there any members of council that have any questions? I'm Councillor Zanko.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question with regard to some of the glass treatments that you had mentioned for windows. What are some types of these treatments that can be applied, that homeowners can apply?
There is a type of tape that you can get that is not too expensive. It's a clear tape that you can put across your windows and you can see out, but it's enough that it can also deter the birds from it. I know that that is one reasonable alternative. I've looked into it just briefly, but I'm sure that Nature Canada would have some suggestions as well if there are other products that would be available that would work with existing windows. And of course, in the long run, we would hope that we might, if that bill is passed in the provincial legislature, that new builds will have glass that is bird friendly as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Zanko?
No, nothing further.
Any other councillors? Thank you very much. I think your presentation speaks for itself and provides us with an interesting opportunity. Thank you.
Will you be letting us know?
So what would happen here if someone wishes to bring the matter up under new business or notice of motion? That will be done, and I'll certainly let you know what transpires.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. That then takes us to the next presentation, which is William Keogh with respect to coyotes. Good evening, Mr. Keogh. You'll want to unmute yourself and perhaps activate your camera.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go over it again very quickly. Thank you very much, Your Worship, Mayor and Councillors. I gave Diana Kelly and your city clerk a whole stack of relevant documents and communications that I've had for the last 6 months with the city. Everything is there. You'll know more than to be the world's experts on it. Anyway, here's what I'm asking the city to do. And this will put it in line with other cities that have already done this, and even one right beside you, namely Niagara Falls. Issue A is that your bylaw fails in that when I say bylaw, the bylaw dealing with animal welfare, protection, and control. It fails in that it doesn't have this specific wording, which is now fairly common. And the wording is anything of a coyote or other wildlife situations that occur on municipal property are the legal responsibility of the municipality as per provincial Ontario law and Ministry of Natural Resources and Wildlife subsequent policy statements. I don't want to get into why Fort Erie is out of whack on this or why you're behind the lead, but you people can discuss that. Now, issue B is when I tried to bring this stuff up with various city officials, your bylaw officer and other officials there, to put it in plain English, they were out to lunch. They were completely wrong in knowing what the policy and the law was. The first, I was told that the coyote problems were handled by the city of Fort Erie as SPCA contract. Totally wrong. I got a hold of the SPCA management. They said their contract never has, never doesn't, and doesn't have anything to do with coyote or any other wildlife issues. That was a little disturbing. Secondly, I was told that the coyote problem was not a town responsibility, and even in some of the literature your city has put out, was the responsibility of the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources and Wildlife. I actually took my time to get a hold of the management MRI people, and I'm talking people, the management people, not people at the bottom rung, the actual manager in charge of this area who handles the Niagara region, and he pointed out categorically, and all this stuff is in the stack of information and emails and phone call documentation that I provided to your clerk. He said the MNR has absolutely no role or legal responsibility with respect to coyote or other wildlife situations on municipal property. Okay, so in other words, what goes on in Fort Erie, you're stuck with it. And here's what I'm recommending that you do. First, have the city of Fort Erie bylaw revised to reflect the proper city responsibility. as has been done in neighboring cities. Second, have the animal control officer definition, which you have in your bylaw revised. You name them, you say in your bylaw you're going to have one. I don't think there is one yet existing. But anyway, it has to be amended to include dealing with wildlife issues such as coyote and other wildlife per Ontario law. This isn't a maybe or an if. This is the law. This is you're not following the law of the land. Third thing is have the issue of dealing with coyotes in the town properly spelled out in related literature, which they do in, for instance, Niagara Falls, and a coyote hotline set up, which they have in the city of Niagara Falls, to properly provide protection. And finally, I've sent in photos showing in my immediate area how we have at least one or two or three every morning and every night coyotes. And I'm not talking that we live on the edge of the forest. I'm talking Parkdale, just in our area between us and the people behind us. That we have coyotes that are stalking pets at the rear of the property. In fact, I just had to spend $4,000 to put a metal fence up. I live at 936 Parkdale. To have them removed by a licensed trapper per city legal obligation and responsibility. And I respect the time you've given me, but I want to make it very clear that nobody at your city seemed to realize that you have the legal responsibility. You're the one that's going to get sued. You're the one that, if a taxpayer has a problem, is not only going to have to deal with it, but by law. And so I'm hoping that you'll make these changes and get the town of Fort Erie up to speed with the neighboring and the provincial law. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keogh. I usually get to ask if there are any questions. Are there any questions by members of council? Councillor Zanko.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Mr. Keogh. Thank you very much for your presentation. I just wanted to note, because I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the area in behind your property where the coyotes are, that is not municipal property. I know our bylaw department did say that they did communicate that that was private property, but I just wasn't sure if you were aware of that.
Yes, but the provincial law, it's not a case of private or municipal property. Any property that, what they mean in their law is, and I clarified this with the provincial legal department, any property, city owned, doesn't matter what it is, any property within municipal boundaries is regarded by provincial law as municipal property and is to be dealt with by the city. So we're not talking here about a city park versus a homeowner's land versus undeveloped residential property. Anything falling within the city limits, you're stuck with it, whether you like it or not. That's the provincial law.
Nothing further, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of council? Thank you very much, Mr. Keogh.
Thank you.
That then takes us to the next delegation, which is Jeffrey Aldridge, relative to public presentations via Zoom. Good evening, Mr. Aldridge.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, and fellow residents. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. I understand I need to share my screen, so I will try that now. And I assume everybody can see that all right?
We can see that.
Thank you very much. And my cursor is not working properly. There we go. So what I want to do tonight is address the fact that COVID has made public meetings, I put impossible, but I realize that is now changing to very difficult. And as a result, we have had to resort to electronic meetings. In-person meetings are definitely the most effective way to communicate to and between groups. Electronic meetings should strive to provide as much of the features of an in-person meeting as possible. It's my intent to cover some of the problems I see and some possible solutions in that. And at the end of the meeting, as appropriate, Mr. Mayor, I would like to find out if somebody would propose that staff look into what I'm proposing. The current challenges are that sometimes using camera and video for people is not that clear, and sometimes how we handle groups is also a problem. So first one, camera and video use. The first time I did this last year, I was not able to see where it was. I turned on the video and made the whole presentation invisible to everybody. A recent meeting that we had was an open house. Of the 7 people who presented, only one of them figured out how to do it. The other 6 didn't know they could or weren't able to do it. So my request is that whenever we get invited to Zoom, if a short explanation of what it is we should do to look for on the screen to activate the video and the audio, that would go a long way to making this a lot easier. And the other thing is, and you did it yourself, Mr. Mayor, when people are stumbling, when they're invited in, just a reminder, take a look at the bottom of your screen to turn the audio on and the video on would make things much, much better for us. I did ask IT last year to put this on their invitations, and at that time, it did not get through. Group meetings. When we're in person, one person can speak, but everyone else in the group can be seen by the council and by the public. Zoom today, only one person can be seen. For instance, right now you can see me, but nobody else. I know, for instance, that Orma Bleeks will be presenting after me. Orma has a small and dedicated team that work with her. If this was an in-person meeting, everybody would be able to see them. I realized they couldn't speak, but you would be able to see them and you would understand what was going on in the group. So my request is allow people in the delegation to be seen by everybody, realizing that only the speaker could speak and the rest would be muted. I just recently participated in an open house. In person, everyone meets in one room at one time. Residents can chat between themselves and often with the presenters. With Zoom today, only one resident is seen at a time. As I said, I was at an open house recently on Zoom, and 6 people didn't know how to use their video, and we had no ability to see each other or talk to each other at any point. I would like to suggest that you set Zoom up to show all attendees muted until invited to speak. And at some point, just as you did the various members before council started today, allow us to have a chat between ourselves. This Friday night, as part of an association, we are going to have 30 to 40 people doing an AGM, and we will have all 30 to 40 of those people visible to each other, and with cooperation, people will speak when it is their turn. Not everyone can use a computer. The open house I referred to the other day, several of the neighbors on the street do not have computers and or are not comfortable using a product like this. Effectively, those people have been excluded from these meetings. I know it's not intentional, but the result is they did not get to participate in an online interactive session. So the request is that once public meetings are allowed, perhaps set up a meeting For instance, in Crystal Ridge would have been a good place last week with a display and a microphone, and you would have somebody from staff helping these people be able to present to the committee, to the council over the internet. The future. Unfortunately, I believe, as I've heard a lot of people say, COVID is here to stay. In-person meetings will probably start again, but there may be imposed limits put on by the government. New waves of this pandemic may hit again. So what I can see happening is I can see, just like in council today, Mr. Mayor, you have some of your councillors in the building and others are participating electronically. I would like to see if it could be determined that once your chambers are open, that a good mix as appropriate of people that want to attend in person can do so. And at the same time, those that want to participate electronically who are not willing to come out in public and risk the infection from COVID, that technology be set up to help them. So as I said at the beginning of this, I am hoping that however this is properly done, Mr. Mayor, that staff could be asked to take a look into these three different aspects that are on my presentation about how Zoom could be used better and made to work at least as good as open public meetings that are done in person. I realize there are always technical challenges and perfection may not result, but I would certainly hope that we could see better communication than we are having today. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aldridge. And it is really important for the council and staff to obtain the benefit of comments and concerns expressed by residents, whether it's an open house or some other type of public meeting. I know that there are some things that you've pointed out that maybe have been, could be addressed, and certainly staff has spent a lot of time trying to figure out how we can better facilitate involvement in meetings. I personally think that the best meetings, and you've alluded to it, are the meetings where you can actually see people, you can see all the people, and they can see you. And, for many months I sat in this chamber by myself, was very lonely, but we'll get back to normal. So I don't know if there are any members of council that have any questions. Don't see it. Now I can't see Councillor. I wonder if you could unshare your screen, Mr. Aldridge, so I can see all of my councillors. I can see Councillor Zanko, but I can't see Councillor Butler. But when you unshare your screen, I should be able to.
There we go.
There we go. Any members of council have any questions? No, that's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Aldridge. We appreciate the time that you've put into this.
And thank you.
That takes us to the final delegation, which is Orma Bleaks, relative to Fire Station 6. Good evening, Ms. Bleaks. We know you're in the room, we just haven't, and you've unmuted yourself. And I don't know if you're going to do the video or not. Yep, there you go. Might want to adjust your camera. There you go. That's perfect. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Thank you for this opportunity to present our new funding proposal for Fire Station 6. As I didn't receive a Zoom invite until 6:37, I wasn't sure I was going to be allowed to present this evening. As you are aware, ACB has been involved with developing a community hub for 3 years. We have spent a lot of time researching the needs of the community and reaching out to people who wish to be involved with this project. I remember meeting with you, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Cookett, and other Town of Fort Erie staff and residents in 2018 about town property to create a community hub, and in particular discussing Fire Station 6. That is when the price of the fire station was suggested to be $225,000. We appreciate the town's support in conducting the feasibility study about the community hub and its possible location. We imagine this neighborhood center will be utilized by all residents of Fort Erie with its low cost and fee geared to income activities and services for all ages. We specifically are offering many activities that were requested by the community and many of which are not offered at all anywhere else. According to the Council and Committee report of March 8th, 2021, the price of the new fire station is $6,500,000. Land sales for fire stations 4 and 6 account for $750,000 of the projected new fire station funding. ACB has received appraisals for Fire Station 6 for approximately $750,000, which is significantly higher than what was budgeted by town staff. However, the town can negotiate a price as a community benefit. We recognize that the town of Fort Erie does support other community benefit projects. Because of the delay caused by the complaint to the Ombudsman in the summer, we have had to create a new fundraising plan. As we read the Municipal Act statutes in what is permissible in a council closed session, we believe it was someone's deliberate attempt to thwart our project. The Ombudsman has found that Council did not act inappropriately in conducting a closed session about our earlier proposal. We could not approach major donors without having a set price for the fire station. However, our plans are now ready to be enacted. We would like to work with the town to arrange a 2-year lease for the fire station with a $150,000 deposit in April of 2022, with the remaining amount to be paid over a 2-year period. We have really done our homework in planning and scheduling activities. As an example, based on interest expressed in fitness classes, if even half the number of people who responded to our survey attend, our projected annual revenue will be substantial. We have taken into account the town's report on maintenance needs over the next 20 years, insurance costs, administrative costs, part-time employee costs, which total less than our projected revenues. In our survey, over 100 people left us their contact info as they wish to volunteer at the center, demonstrating the huge community interest in being part of this project. We have scheduled a public information rally this coming Saturday at 11:30 at 11 a.m. in front of the fire hall. We would be pleased to have you attend. It would be amazing to be able to announce to the public that the town of Fort Erie is in negotiation with ACB to further this project and bring them a neighborhood center. This would be an amazing positive legacy for this council and administration. We are asking council to pass a resolution to negotiate a 2-year lease with ACB for Fire Station 6. Thank you very much for allowing me this time. Now, how do I go back?
Thank you very much, Ms. Bleeks. Are there any members of council that have any questions? So we do have your the presentation that you had put forward and your updated revenue projections, and there will be a closed session meeting later during our agenda. So thank you very much for providing this information, and thank you for the work you've put into this.
Oops.
That then takes us to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone wishes removed from the consent agenda? If not, then Councillor Dubanow, you have the resolution for the consent agenda.
I do, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Noyes, that council approves the consent agenda items as recommended.
Are there any questions with respect to any of the items in the consent agenda? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. I'm just wondering if item D, that the town, it's written to receive the town of Niagara on the Lake request provincial government to address the OHIP insured eye care. And I'm wondering, I would like to see receive, change that to support.
So that is item 9.2.2D.
Yes.
Okay. So you're moving that the receive be changed to receive and support. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Dubanow? Did you want to speak to that, Councillor Noyes?
Just briefly, I do think that all the information I've seen on the television, the news programs, and information that was provided, this has been a very underfunded program, and vision is so important. And it's hard to ask the doctors, the optometrists, and the ophthalmologists to work at a fee that they're actually losing money. And so I do think it's time for the cost to at least, the payment to at least reflect the cost of providing the service. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? Then I'm going to remove this from the consent agenda. We'll deal with it separately, and we're going to deal with it right now. All those in favor of the receive and support the resolution from the town of Niagara on the Lake regarding OHIP and insured eye care. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. To the balance of the consent agenda items, any questions or comments? Councillor Lubberts.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Just on the Community Gaming and Development Corporation minutes, I see that they reviewed the policy, and they have a draft policy with some changes. I'm just wondering if I could get a copy of the changes that they're proposing to make.
My understanding is that the process, having looked at this, they're going to be reviewing some anticipated changes with staff, and then it's going to come back to the board, and then it would come to council. So that would be, so this is still, the sausage is still being made, Councillor Lubberts, so to speak. It's still in the process of being worked on, so.
Well, I guess maybe the reason I'm asking for it is I'm wondering if council's going to have an opportunity to make comments.
We'll have to approve
suggestions.
We would have to approve the policy once it's put forward, is my understanding. Is that correct, Mr. Cookett? Yeah, we would have to approve it. So the gaming corporation board would receive it, they would approve it, and then they would send it to us for our approval.
At which time we can make changes?
Well, I would
If
suppose
we need, or suggested changes?
If we're the approving body, I would presume that that's correct.
Okay. I still don't understand why you can't get it. There's a draft copy of it. It should be a public document, no?
Well, it's in the process, I mean, it's a draft copy, it's in the process of being worked on, so it's not, it'd be like us asking to see a staff report while they're still working on it.
We received lots of draft copies.
We don't receive draft copies of staff reports. That's
We
untypical.
received a draft copy of the secondary plan.
Well, that's not a staff report. The report is the draft of the secondary plan for council to comment on.
Wouldn't that be the same as a development policy for areas of our town?
Beg your pardon?
development policies? Wouldn't it be the same as a development policy for how we're going to move forward with certain areas of our town?
Well, I don't think
This
it's...
is a policy for gaming.
Well, we don't receive, as an example, we don't receive a draft of the snow clearing policy while staff is still working on it. They bring it forward as a report, and then that's when we review it. So this would come forward, I believe, after the community gaming has dealt with it, and then council gets our run at it. That's my understanding.
Okay, all right. I guess if that's the way the rules are, I guess that's the way the rules are, but I don't agree.
Yeah, okay, and Councillor Lubberts, if that's not correct, then I'm more than happy to be corrected by staff at some point, and if the
I'm not
draft...
asking you to be corrected, I'm just saying if that's the way the rules are, I don't agree.
Yeah, and I'm saying that if that's not how the rules are, then staff can correct me, and then we can circulate whatever draft might be available, but at this stage of the game, I'm confident that's the way it goes. And I appreciate you don't agree.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop, but seems to me that whenever anybody questions anything from gaming, it turns into there's some wall that gets in front of you, and there's this big secret thing that you're not allowed to see or hear.
Well, Councillor Lubberts, I might agree with you if I wasn't as vigilant on these gaming matters as you might be, because there are lots of things that are occurring that I question, and I raise those issues with the CAO, and I get answers. So please don't suggest that I'm protecting something at the Gaming Corporation. Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. I don't know if I can weigh in on this. I did have an opportunity of talking to Ms. Gress today with some of the same comments that Councillor Lubberts is, and she was very good in explaining the process as you have been, and I think, I don't know if this is going to help Councillor Lubberts, is that what she's doing is there's been changes at the OLG level and the alcohol and gaming. I don't remember all the acronyms for that. And when we get it, it's going to be a red-lined thing. So parts of it that no longer fit the alcohol and gaming policy we'll see them crossed out. And anything that's added, it'll be added in a different color, I think red or yellow or something like that, so that we'll have a very good idea of what the policy says now, what they're recommending to be taken out, and what needs to be added because of the changes in the rules and regulations. And that I understand that there's a committee of 4, and I think this council approved it, that we have a staff member beside Ms. Gress on that, plus our lawyer is also going to be looking at the recommendations for the changes before it comes to council to make sure legally we can do it, and it's within the the criteria. It meets the ALDO, the changes in standards and requirements that the alcohol and gaming have had. Grace would have been much better at explaining this to you than I am, but that's the general gist, and I felt quite confident after I talked to Grace that council would definitely have input into the, we would definitely be the people or the body that will be determining the policy. Thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Noyes? Any other members of council? Councillor Lubberts?
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Noyes, and that is a much better explanation, and it would have been nice if that was the first explanation. Thank you.
I'll try better next time. If there are no other questions or comments, I'm going to call the balance of the consent agenda. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That then takes us to the next item, which is the report regarding municipal bridge and culvert assessment report, and I understand, Councillor Lubberts, you have the resolution for that.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that IS 2021 Municipal Bridge and Culvert Assessment Report, that Council receives the 2021 Municipal Bridge and Culvert Assessment Report for information purposes, and further, that council consider the consultant's recommendations regarding funding levels required to meet the sustainable system of infrastructure when preparing the 2022 budget.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor of the report recommendations? None opposed. That is carried. That then takes us to new business and inquiries. Councillor Zanko.
Thank you, Your Worship. And this is going to be through you to Mr. Well, I'm not sure if actually maybe Mr. Cookett wants to answer this or might have an answer, but I'm just inquiring on the street lights on Celebration Drive. I know I keep checking in on this, and I was told a few weeks ago that parts were on order. But the residents are, again, getting very impatient since they've been waiting for 2 years. And I just wondered if we had any update with regard to those parts.
I'm going to refer that to Mr. Murata, who's here, and I think he's familiar with this issue.
So, you know what? I didn't even realize you were here, Mr. Murata. I'm so sorry. I would have directed that to you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's okay. Yeah, last I checked, it was a couple weeks ago, and the parts were on their way in. I haven't checked to see if we've actually received them yet. So we had confirmed the parts we needed. We went through the exercise of establishing exactly where the failures were, and that particular location, we did ask for it to be a priority. So I'll have to look and see exactly where the parts are, and if we do have them, when the service crew will be sent out to get the installation in place.
Okay, perfect. And if we do have those parts, if we can mark that as urgent, it would be greatly appreciated. And nothing further.
Thank you. And I wonder, Mr. Murata, when you're aware of what's there and you know what the schedule is going to be for installation, I wonder if you could let Councillor Zanko and the other members of council know, just so that we're on top of it as well.
Yep, we can do that.
Great. Anything further, Councillor Zanko? Councillor Lubberts.
Nothing further, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lubberts, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Just a couple things. Earlier, when we had the delegation from the region, they showed a slide with some wayfinding signage and so on. And I'm just wondering, a few weeks ago, we discussed some signage on Erie Road, from Ridgeway Road to Schooley, I think. And I'm wondering, will we need to engage with the region as well? 'Cause I believe that's a regional road, right? Erie Road?
They gave that back a while ago.
Okay.
So no, I don't think that we would need to consult the region on that, but it might not be a bad idea for us to have some dialogue with the region about their signs, so that there's maybe some compatibility rather than a complete proliferation
There
of
should
signs.
be some consistency, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the second thing, earlier, the gentleman that was speaking about the coyote law, Mr. Cookett, do you have anything at all about this law? I'm curious to know exactly what it says.
Mr. Cookett?
Through your worship to the councillor, I do not, councillor. I'm going to look through the material that this gentleman was referring to. I don't believe that we are responsible for looking after coyotes. I question some of the statements made, so I need to look into this further. I would think moving forward with our future RFP for animal control, this is something that we may want to address through that future RFP and contract that we sign.
Might not be a bad idea to have the town's solicitor take a look at that.
Yeah,
Councillor
okay,
Lubberts.
thank you.
Any other members of council? Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. The presentation that the Burt Miller group did, is that something that we bring up under new business, or do we have to ask under notice of motion to refer to that document?
You can raise questions under new business if you want to bring a motion such as one requesting staff to investigate and provide council with advice on how we could move forward as a bird city friendly municipality. That would be a notice of motion, but you can ask questions under new business and inquiries.
Okay, I don't have any questions. I do want to have that tabled, well, not tabled, but looked at.
Notice of a
Bring it
motion?
under notice of motion then?
Yep, for sure. Any other councillors with respect to new business or inquiries? Then, is that Mr. Davis over there? Just wondered, you received, I'm sure, a copy of Mr. Aldridge's PowerPoint presentation regarding the Zoom meetings. He did make reference to some things. Did you have any comments or suggestions at this point, or anything that you might want to comment on to council at some future point? Sure.
Yes, Your Worship. I thought the presentation was good. I thought he made some interesting comments, and especially those that we can act on fairly quickly in terms of instructions going out, generic instructions going out with the Zoom meetings. With respect to some of the other suggestions, I think we'd have to look at how we organize people as they come in. And it's something I can talk perhaps to Mr. Cookett about and see if we can come up with a solution as we move forward, especially in the hybrid era. As he said, these things may not go away really quickly. So it's something I need to talk to the planners about too with our public meetings. But I'm sure we can come together and get some kind of resolution to make this better.
Okay, as long as we know that staff is looking at this and considering things that may be done to improve the experience. In my world, everybody would be here in the room and we'd all be nice and close together, but I know that's not the real world. Sorry. Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Davis. Anything else, any other new business or inquiries? If not, then I'm going to move to motions. There are no motions on the agenda. Councillor Butler, you're contemplating a notice of motion.
Yes, sorry, Your Worship. Yes, I am going to put in a notice of motion for the town to investigate and make recommendations on becoming a bird-friendly municipality.
And that would be returnable at our next regular council meeting, which I think is November 22nd.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other notices of motion? Councillor Dubanow and then Councillor Noyes.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to bring forward a notice of motion regarding actually requesting that the federal government discontinue pre-arrival testing at the Canada-US land border. Thank you, Your Worship. My apologies, Your Worship. That'll be returnable at our next regular meeting of council, which I believe you just mentioned November 22nd, correct?
It is, yes. And there have been a number of resolutions to that extent that have been circulating among the border communities.
Okay.
So we may be getting that, and if we have a special council meeting before November the 22nd, it would be my intention to put that on the agenda. And I may even have some dialogue with the clerk to figure out how we can get that before council sooner, because I know that this has been discussed among the border mayors, and that type of resolution has been circulating.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do it as soon as possible, Your Worship. Thank you.
Okay. Before I get to you, Councillor Noyes, just let me finish making my notes here. Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. That the AC Douglas Park 2 be added to the list of town parks that allow dogs on leash on the paths. And that would be coming back again November 22nd.
Okay, I would think that would be something we'd also want to consider at budget time, because there would be, if it's a dog-friendly park, I presume that there would be some fencing that would be put up. This would be just, so it's a dog-friendly park with dogs on leashes.
If I can, yes. Basically, it's a passive park with a path that goes through it. There's no playground structures or anything else on it, and what the residents want, and they actually have a petition with 100 signatures, they would like to be able to walk their dog on the path. So there wouldn't be any fencing. I've actually had a brief discussion with Ms. Hanson and with Mr. Hutton, and they both seem to, I'm not putting words in their mouth, but in agreement with that. But no expense was commented on.
Okay, and that's November the 22nd as well? Yes. Okay. Any other notices of motion? If not, then we're going to go to Councillor Noyes for a resolution to move into closed session.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that council does now go into closed session at 7:40 p.m. to discuss the following. A, pursuant to subsection 239 in brackets 2 and brackets C of the Municipal Act 2001, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board regarding proposal for disposal of Fire Station 6.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Yes, so before we leave here and go into closed session, can I just have both Councillors Zanko and Butler confirm that they are alone and not recording the closed session meeting? Councillor Butler?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I'm alone and I'm not recording the meeting.
Councillor Zanko?
I'm alone and I'm not recording the meeting.
Great, thank you very much. We'll catch you then on the other side.
And seconded by Councillor Dubanow, that bylaw package containing bylaw number 123, 2021, to authorize the entry into amendment to memorandum of understanding with West Wind Niagara Developments Incorporated in brackets Alfred Beam, 3285 Thunder Bay Road, be given first and second reading.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That's on the floor for any questions or comments. Councillor Lubberts?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. I think it was last week when this project came forward, we asked staff to look at a number of things and go back to the developer. This agreement won't affect any of that, will it?
I don't believe it does. Mr. Cookett?
Through your worship, no, it does not. Doesn't
Okay,
affect it.
all right, thanks.
Any other questions or comments regarding this bylaw? Okay, Councillor McDermott, third and final reading.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lubberts, that bylaw 123-2021 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Butler, you have the resolution for first and second reading of the confirmatory bylaw.
I do. Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Zanko that bylaw number 137-2021 to confirm the actions of council at its special council in committee and council in committee meetings held on October 18th, 2021, and its special council and council meetings held on October 25th, 2021 is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Zanko, third and final reading.
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Butler, that bylaw number 137-2021 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That takes us to scheduling of meetings. Councillor Dubanow and then Councillor Noyes.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. As of tomorrow, that's Tuesday, October 26th, there's a Community Healthcare Services Committee meeting here at Town Hall at 5 p.m. Normally, we would have a Community Gaming Development Corporation Board of Directors meeting on Wednesday, October 27th. However, due to a light agenda, we've canceled that meeting and we're going to resume in November. And bear with me here. On Monday, November 1st, we have a Greater Niagara Circle Route Committee meeting at the Region. That's going to be held virtually over Zoom. And on Wednesday, November 3rd, we have a Planning and Development Services Business Subcommittee meeting at 5 p.m. I believe we're having that here in Conference Room 2, Your Worship, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank
Okay,
you.
And what time is the Greater Niagara Circle?
Oh, my apologies, 1 p.m., Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. We have a meeting, the Accessibility Committee, tomorrow at 4 p.m. In Conference Room 1, and I'm just hoping Nick and I aren't going to be in the same room. I don't know which room Councillor Dubanow is going to be in. And a Traffic Coordinating Committee meeting on November 27th, which is Wednesday at noon in Conference Room 3.
Any other meetings? Yep, go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, Your Worship, my apologies. I mentioned that the Healthcare Services meeting would be here at Town Hall. I'm looking at my calendar here. It's actually going to be held at the Fort Erie Public Library at the corner of Gilmore and Central. So my apologies. I've just popped up on my calendar here.
Yes, that's very good. You're quite correct. Yeah, that's good. Okay, Councillor Dubanow, then if there are no further meetings to announce, please do your thing.
Absolutely, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes that Council adjourns at 8:57 p.m. to reconvene into a regular meeting of Council on November 22nd, 2021.
All those in favor? None opposed? That is carried. Thank you all.